Good morning. I'd like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. My name is Mike McCarty. I am the CEO of Safe Hiring Solutions. And just a couple quick housekeeping items. We have everybody muted, and that just cuts down on the background noise. So if you have questions as we run through this demo, you can place them in that questions box in your dialog box, and I will answer those as soon as we wrap up. But what we want to show you today is RapidRefCheck, and so we have created a couple new software systems at Safe Hiring that complement, the whole recruiting, safety, security that we've been known for the last 11 years. And so we've got a safe visitor system. I'm actually doing another webinar on that late this afternoon. And so with Safe Visitor, it's a visitor management system that handles temporary visitors, volunteers, vendors that are coming to your organization, just removing that check-in where they sign a book and you don't really know who they are. It actually scans a driver's license, or you can pre-credential volunteers and vendors and issue them ID cards where they scan in and out of your organization. So RapidRefCheck. I built the original automated reference checking software system a few years ago, and quite honestly, we never went full steam with it to market, and that was primarily because I had a business partner, and he had beliefs that we needed to charge extremely high amounts of money for this, and it made no sense to me. So I bought him out, and we've spent last fall rebuilding this really from the ground up. And so we launched the new version last February, and now it's RapidRefCheck. And so really probably one of the most interesting things I'll mention this morning is there's not a lot of competitors in this space, and of those, I think now we are the only one as of in the middle of August that has the ability to do this as a text-based model. So now not only can you use this system I'm going to show you where it emails links to your candidate. They click on a link, they enter the information on their references, a reference receives an email and click on a link. Now you can actually initiate the process where the first invite goes out to your candidate as a text, so they're getting it immediately, and it goes to their references the first time as a text. And so I was just glancing through some of our clients as I was waiting on the webinar to start, and noticed, we've got, I saw 3 or 4 from a couple different clients where they had entered a report today, and they're already, 50 to 65% complete, and it's not even lunchtime. So the text-based part of this has really increase the speed to which these reference checks are being completed. So what's the concept here? The concept is, for years we've done traditional phone-based reference checks. You pick up a phone, you make a phone call, you're going to ask a few questions, you're going to get some information, you've got to kind of jot that information down, so then you have to interpret what you're writing because you're not capturing exactly word for word what they're saying. So there's a lot of, it's a bit less than objective information. And so what RapidRefCheck does is, one, it removes the telephone, removes the labor of making phone calls. It allows you to ask a lot more questions and elicit a lot more information, and a lot more information from a lot more people. So you can control the number of references you require, and you can do that by position. So if you had multiple positions, you control how many references and what type of references. So for example, one of our clients that I just looked at that used this in the previous system, they require 6 references. So that's a paradigm shift for most organizations that say we've always required 3. Why so many? Well, first of all, everybody potentially could come up with 2 or 3 references, but when you start to ask your candidates for 4, 5, or 6 references, now you're starting to stretch your candidates, and you're starting to obtain some information from feedback from references that are moving a bit further away from the candidate in terms of being, in that intimate role of a reference for them. And so we encourage, a minimum of 4 references. It's certainly, your personal policy and choice. You can have as many or as few as you want, but I think it makes the process a lot better when you require at least 4 references or more. And then you can require the types. And so you could say we require 6 references, 2 of which have to be former supervisors. The rest can be peers. You can do a self-evaluation, which a lot of our clients use this tool, so the candidate actually completes the evaluation him or herself. And so you'll see when I show you a copy of a report, it returns the information, it aggregates the information and comes back and it scores it by relationship. So if you had former supervisors, it will aggregate by former supervisors, by peers, and then a self-evaluation. And so the reference knows when they receive the invitation for feedback, first of all, they're receiving it from your candidate. So it's not going to say, RapidRefCheck would like to know about John Smith, and can you give us information about John, his work habits and history? Because maybe company X that you're talking to has a policy that says, hey, we're only going to give name, rank, and serial number. But now the invitation comes to the individual for feedback. It's coming from the candidate. So the candidate is asking for the feedback. And so it kind of bypasses those policies that may restrict information. The other thing is it lets that reference know that their feedback is anonymous. And so it's not going to come back and say Mike McCarty said X, Y, and Z. It's going to come back and it's going to aggregate my feedback by my relationship. So people tend to be a bit more honest and open or candid in their feedback because they know it's not going to specifically point the finger at them as having made a negative comment. One of the other things that I heard, and I'm a former detective, is, well, I like to do the phone-based reference checks because I can pick up on nuances and those types of things on the phone. Well, 2 things. One, this system is priced in a category that you could use this as a supplement to phone-based traditional reference checks if that's what you opted to do. I would say almost all of our clients generally stop with the phone-based reference checks, but you certainly could use it as a supplement. I would also say that sometimes when I get phone calls, and I call traditional phone-based reference checks interrupted reference checks because it always comes at an inopportune time. And so the phone rings, I have to pause, I'm answering the phone. It's not necessarily the highest priority on my list at that moment. And you may think that some of my pausing is hesitation in answering a question when in fact I might be multitasking. I might actually be answering some email while I'm talking to you on the phone. So this can be used as a supplement. I think what's more important is we price this not as a per candidate fee, but this is a annual subscription rate based on roughly what your volume is. And so you can use it a lot earlier in the recruiting process. And so now I might use this when I have 4 or 5 candidates for a position to help me narrow the candidate list down because I'm not paying a per candidate fee. And so the way you use this could change some of your recruiting process. So how does it work? Well, probably over the next 30 to 45 days, we're working through with the developers to integrate this within the safe hiring background screening system so it would actually be controlled just out of the same system you control your criminal background checks. Until the integration, it operates as 2 systems. You would log in here, simply click on add a candidate. You're going to enter their name, email, mobile phone number. You'll just check a box here that you have permission to send them a message, and then it'll text them the invite, and then you would select the position if you have more than 1 position. Otherwise, it would be kind of defaulted or set. So this is a demo site, so these are kind of goofy names, but you could have this as, sales position, whatever you would want that to be called. But once you click on that and add the position, the system now knows based on that position what survey is attached to that, and how many reference and types of references are required. And so all you do at this point is hit save, and it is going to send that invitation to your candidate, and they're going to do the rest of the work. You're done. You go on to doing something else. And so the candidate gets a text or an email. They click on the link. It's preset, the number of references and type that they have to fill out. They'll do the same thing. They'll check a box here that they have permission if they want to text the reference. And I would highly encourage that your references use that technology, because it's really going to speed your process considerably. And so once they enter that information, then it is saved and goes to the references as a text and an email. How that works from that point, you don't need to log in here. You're not having to do follow-up. You're going to get a morning, what I call digest, a morning coffee digest that tells you everything that's in progress in your system, what it looks like, what the status is. And so so the system handles all that automatically. So if your candidate doesn't respond to the link within the first 12 hours, they're going to get a follow-up email. So they're going to get reminded every 12 hours or twice a day, because we want them to get in there. They want to be hired. They want to volunteer. They need to be in here and getting their reference information entered. The references, once they're entered, will get an initial text if they opt to do that, or email, but then they'll get reminded once daily. And so the reminders are all automatic. If a reference declines feedback, once they decline that feedback, it's also going to notify you and the candidate, because now they need to add another reference. They've dropped under quorum. You can go back in, enter the information, send it back out to the candidate. They can add a single reference, and it all attaches into one single report. And so everything just kind of happens in an automatic function. So it removes almost all the labor of conducting reference checks off your shoulders. You can ask as many questions across as many categories as you want. We have some default surveys that are listed in here, but if you tell us, hey, can you can you create a survey that says X, Y, and Z? And so that's exactly what we can do. We've got this survey builder. We've got default surveys that are in here. We'll probably be giving you this functionality sometime in 2016, where you can create your own. I mean, this is kind of drag and drop functionality here. I could start from blank and name my default. I can create categories. And so on this employment survey, these categories are actually for competencies that we are most concerned with. And then I have, 5 or 6 questions under each one of these. Once we turn this functionality over to you as a client, you'll have a whole database of information you can choose from. So every question constructed by every client would be listed. It will not identify what client. It would only tag it as something related to a competency, or it could be a volunteer or integrity related question. And so you could come in here in the database and type in the type of questions you're looking for, and it will make a list for you once we turn that over to you. Right now we create that for you. We can help you modify or expand that. If you say, hey, we ask about 3 or 4 questions, we need to be asking more, we can help you with that process. And then what does it look like on the back end? Because you can see these are statements. And so this is really, it works best in a Likert scale model, where the references are responding from a strongly agree to strongly disagree. Doesn't mean you can't ask some open-ended questions if you want to do that, or you could ask all open-ended questions if you wanted to. It'd just be a lot of data that you would have to comb through. And so what we typically do is take your questions and convert them to a Likert scale type question, because it just lends itself to reporting more objective and easier to digest the information. And so as we look at a report, let me go back over here to the demo site. Let's just choose a report here. You have 2 options for these reports. You got this PDF button, which is going to give you this really robust report. And we created that especially if you need to download, attach, or share information. We also created that because as we integrate with Safe Hiring, we built into it some alert functionality. And I'll show you what that report looks like in just a second. We also have this HTML, so you can look at them online. You can quickly review the information. So as I click on a person's report, I now get first screen is going to show me an overall result. So this tells me for a former supervisor, a peer, and a self, and the numbers of those that participated, what their overall score is. So across all competencies, all questions in this particular survey, the supervisor scored at 4.05, the peers at 4.55, and the self-evaluation was at 3.15. And so I really encourage clients, don't stop here, because you could have negative information in a report and it's going to aggregate itself out, maybe because the number of people responding, and it won't show right here. So now I can click on this. I can say, all right, show me the categories. So I've got 4 categories, and you can already see some red start to show up here. So this is all color coded. So everything 4.0 and above is green. Everything that drops below 4 to 3 is a mustard color. And then when it drops into negative, anything under a 3, it turns red. So it also allows you to quickly and visually kind of hone in on areas you need to take a look at. So as I look at these categories, so for performance management, if I had 4 or 5 questions, here's the overall score for that section. But I can still drill down and say, I want to look at every single question in that particular category. So it really makes the consumption of the data a lot easier and a lot more quickly. But you'll notice that you're probably getting a lot more information than you are on the telephone, because now in this particular survey, which is a live survey, there's 4 categories, and each category has, I think, 5 questions. So now you're getting 20 questions answered by a potential reference, and multiplying that by 4 references on this example that responded, just a lot more actionable data that you can get in a much quicker fashion. So that is really RapidRefCheck. The system, really sophisticated, does a lot of cool automated things for you. But we've priced it so that it is very competitive. And so if you're interested in pricing, send me an email and I will send back the pricing sheet. So we have special pricing for non-for-profits, volunteer organizations, schools, corporate pricing. If you're with the church or a ministry that's insured with certain insurance companies, we're rolling out special pricing through that. I can tell you, no matter what category you fit into, if you're doing more than a handful of these a month, I mean, your pricing is probably going to be cheaper than a cup of coffee. I mean, it's really a very inexpensive way of collecting feedback. All right, I'm going to pause for a second and open up the chat box and see if we have any questions. All right, I am not seeing any questions. So again, if you want more information on pricing or a copy of a sample report so you can see what it looks like in the PDF version, happy to send that over. Just send me an email. Again, we have a webinar coming up this afternoon and a few next week on safe visitor solutions. If you need a visitor management system that's tied into our background checks, then you're more than welcome to sign up for that as well. Otherwise, have a great day.